This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
This is why the Nkuhuma Pride is such a firm favourite.
It's Kinky Tail.
He just looks ready for a fight.
This is still her territory.
The Evoker boys are here to stay.
How insane was that?
Good afternoon and welcome to the 14th episode of Safari Lives, a highlights package of the week's goings-on from here on the western fringes of the Great Kruger National Park and, of course, up in the Masai Mara in the Mara Triangle. My name is James Henry. On camera today we've got Senzo Mkhize all the way from KwaZulu-Natal, and up in the Mara we have the inimitable couple of Brent and Jamie, Leo Smith-Patterson, or Patterson-Leo Smith. I'm not sure what they're known as anymore these days. They'll be keeping you updated with all the goings-on with Waffles and the Mara, Waffles and the North Clan, and of course all of the Lion Prides, the Sausage Tree Pride, the Olololo Pride, the Paradise Pride, and all the magnificent animals of the migration. We are trying to head towards a character we haven't seen for some time, and that is the Evokers. We did not see the Evokers this week. We did see quite a lot of leopards. At Djuma, it's been mostly a leopard week as usual. Hosana, our 2.5-year-old prince, spent time close to camp as he has done for the past 2 months, but he's starting to range much more widely now. He ate a duiker, possibly stolen from Tundi, south of our boundary 2 days ago. We've had limited time with Tingana. He killed a nyala near the eastern boundary, had his prize pinched, and then disappeared into Torchwood. Tundi spent most of the week around Treehouse Dam, where we think she had a kill. Much of her time was occupied with calling for her recalcitrant daughter, Tlalamba. The princess's playful tracks were all we found of her. On the lion front, we had a very special time with the Nkuhumas on foot at Treehouse Dam one morning. Their faces were covered in blood, but we failed to find their victim. Up north in the Mara Triangle, the Sausage Tree Pride hunted the herds, as did any self-respecting Lion Pride, the Olololos and Paradise Prides included. The North Clan continued to amaze with Waffles and her cubs. So that's what we're going to be focusing on this afternoon. Don't worry, Brent and Jamie have not got married and not told you about it. I was just being relatively playful, I suppose, so please don't worry about that. As always, you are the most important character in all of our Safari Live, so please talk to us using the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, otherwise the chat stream on YouTube. The characters of which I spoke are the Evoker males. The Evoker males came down south yesterday, apparently. No, sorry, not yesterday, this afternoon, and they killed a waterbuck somewhere around here. There are a great heap of vultures. There is a great heap of vultures on a dead tree over there. Under it is quite possibly the carcass of a hapless waterbuck bull, and we'll go and see if we can't reunite with the Evoker males, which will be very exciting indeed. While we head there, we are going to go back up to the Masai Mara, where the predators are enjoying the smorgasbord of the migration. Brent Leo Smith, who uses words like smorgasbord a lot, is waiting to greet you.
Welcome to the Masai Mara in Kenya, and as you can see, we have a slightly disturbing sight. There's blood all over the back legs of that poor zebra that has obviously made it across the Mara River, but not without massive injury. And of course, that leaves it vulnerable to not only the North Clan, but the Musketeers and the Paradise Pride. My name is Brent Leo Smith. I have Archie on camera with me, and I hope you're ready for this edition of Safari Lives. As you can figure, since I'm with a wounded zebra, I must be quite close to the crossings, and indeed I am. There is a build-up of zebra at Main North. However, Archie and I think we know more than the others there, and we think they're going to cross at Main South. Shame, poor zebra. Let's hope a predator does find it soon and put it out of its misery. It is quite badly wounded, and I don't think with that injury and the density of predators that we have here in the Masai Mara that zebra will last too long. Of course, if you have any questions, hashtag SafariLive is the best way to get hold of us. And I'm just going to try and get you a view of the zebras we've been watching. And one has to be quite clever when you're around the crossings, because there's often a lot of vehicle build-up, especially since there haven't been many crossings this year. But Archie is probably the crossing king after doing all the crossings with Taylor earlier this year. And Archie and I are in agreement that they're going to walk to Main North, they're going to have a squiz, and they're going to think, no, this is a bad idea. And they're going to come across down here at Main South. So hopefully we don't get it wrong, but fortunately if we do, we've got a long camera lens to compensate for our bad judgment. But we think the zebras are going to move from that particular point off Main North and come back here. Well, let's show you the zebras quickly. And who knows, my favorite new little friends, the banded mongoose family that sleep here at Main South, might come for a visit. So there we go. Let's see, are there any crocodilians down here as well? But we can see the zebras waiting on the northern bank of the Mara River. And we're going to do some patience. As you can see, it doesn't look like they want to cross there. I think they're going to come across down here at Main South. And the problem with Main South is there are some seriously big crocodiles in waiting, and that's probably exactly what caught that poor little zebra. There we go. There is the apex aquatic predator of the Masai Mara. Now it sounds like Jamie has already found the apex land predator of the Masai Mara. So let's go have a look.
We are not far away from Brent at all, and we are not with the animal that we expected to be with this afternoon, but that's just the way things go out here in the Masai Mara and indeed the African wilderness in general. A very good afternoon to you all and welcome to this episode of Safari Lives. It's wonderful to have you on board. Don't forget to send through your questions in the normal ways, and let me explain exactly what it is that is going on over here. So, these two boys, and until we can confirm exactly who they are, let's call them the nomads. They have burst onto the scene over the last few days. Brent had them chasing a male lion back south, and then they vanished for a few days. But during that whole event, Brent noticed that one of them was missing the tip of his tail, and quite a recent injury as well. And we didn't see them for a few days and in a way thought nothing of it because they're still quite young and the musketeers still dominate most of this area. Scar, the lion that Brent was talking about earlier. But then, on my way towards North Clan's den site, lo and behold, who should be lying under a tree less than about 100 yards or so from the den itself were the two boys. They are still less than about 100 yards or so from the den. Now this morning we encountered one very anxious looking Waffles after she heard the sound of these males roaring. She kind of wanted to go to the den. She was looking in the direction of the den, but she didn't dare put herself or her babies at risk by approaching it. Now what this means, their continued presence here, is that Waffles has not been back to her cubs the entire day. She went off and lay down in a natural plunge pool in a swampy bit of this area. I don't know, I suspect that she is probably still there. But I can't go and check because I don't know exactly where she is. So once again, patience always pays off. We're going to stick it out with these boys and keep checking back in on Waffles' den to see if she does get to feed her cubs tonight. Well, these lions haven't eaten, and neither have Waffles' cubs, but the evokers certainly have.
Yes, they have, and they are keeping these birds off their kill. I've just heard that it apparently is not their kill, and in the fine tradition of male lions all over the world, they have pilfered it from the Nkuhuma pride. So the 3 evoker males who have taken this territory without so much as a scratch to their faces now are taking kills from the Nkuhuma pride, who seem to be much more comfortably moving up north into the evoker domain. And as I have mentioned before, they spent quite a lot of time down south while Amber Eyes had her cubs, because they were almost certainly sired by one of the Birmingham boys, and then she lost those to hyenas. And since then, the pride has moved closer and closer into the ambit of the evoker boys, because they will most likely, in fact almost certainly, be the males that now dominate the Nkuhuma pride. The pride clearly has not decided that they like the evokers very much yet, and have absconded after their meal was stolen from them. Now, if you haven't met the evoker boys before, well, this is them, and from their looks, I'd say they're probably about 4 years old now, and pretty early on for them to have taken a territory. And when I say they came in here and took a territory without so much as receiving a scratch to the face, I say that because their arrival here was beautifully timed. I don't think they did that on purpose. I think it was entirely lucky, but they arrived here just as the Birmingham boys, erstwhile owners of these lands, headed down south to fill a vacancy on the Sand River, which was brought about by the demise of the Majingalan coalition. And so the Birminghams moved south, and these young, what did I call them, hipsters, millennial hipsters, moved in. And, well, they haven't had to fight for their land at all. They've just kind of set up, started roaring. Nobody came to chase them away, and so they thought, well, we'll just hang about and stay. They have been seen mating with a pride called the Talamati pride, but as yet we are unaware of them trying to sire any cubs with the Nkuhumas, which of course are our favourite lions. They're the ones that we see the most often. I agree, Ravinda, absolutely. So it's nice to have males back in the reserve. It's really great to have male lions back in the reserve, especially 3 chaps like this. Let's hope they hang around for a while. There's no reason they shouldn't. They're big and strong and young, and unless a coalition of, say, I don't know, 6-year-olds comes into this area from where I don't know, they're in probably for a fairly long haul here. And the other thing to say about this, of course, is that this was a waterbuck, and waterbucks are legendarily not eaten by lions. Of course, that is nonsense. Here are some lions eating waterbuck. Brent Leo Smith has not managed to find any lions just yet. I've no doubt he will during the course of the next 2 hours. He has managed to find something else, though. This time, it's a very small bird.
And we've been trying to do some birding while we're waiting for the zebras, and the birds just keep disappearing. And there we go, a dark-capped bulbul. At least it didn't leave us like the others that were here a little bit earlier. Now, the zebras have started moving away from Main North, so that's why I think our gamble to come down to Main South was not a bad one. And also we don't get to be surrounded by vehicles. And I might go for a little wander, though, to see if we can find some lions around here. I'm keeping an eye on the wounded zebra. Where's it gone now? It was just over here. You see it? No, it's around there somewhere. We'll go have a look now. But in the meantime, there's been some very interesting developments in the lion prides in the Mara this year. The migration's been late. There's been a lack of food up in the northern parts, which has caused one of the prides of lions we got to know very, very well last year, the Olololo pride, to head down south onto the burn into what was the core of the Sausage Tree Pride territory. Three members of the Olololo Pride seem to have moved into what was traditionally Sausage Tree Pride territory, enjoying the short green grass of the burn and taking advantage of the animals attracted to the area. They seem very comfortable in their new surrounds, playing and grooming, and they are not going anywhere for now. Look at that absolute monster. It could even have been the one that was responsible for that nasty wound on the zebra. That is a very big croc, probably 4 meters in length and weighing probably 600-700 kilograms. Isn't that impressive? What a massive animal. There's a smaller one coming downstream. And the most productive crossing areas here in the deep water have the biggest crocodiles, and the big males will actually chase off other big males from these areas to ensure that they always get the best and biggest people. Oh, the one's getting up on the other side. Not as big, but still moving into the water. Can they sense that the zebras are coming? Dun dun dun. They're just absolutely fascinating creatures. I know crocodiles, a lot of people don't like them. They're considered quite evil and nasty. But they have regenerative qualities. So the oil and fat from a crocodile has been used traditionally to treat wounds and scars. And they actually do have really true regenerative properties that they recover from injuries very quickly, and they can recover from the nastiest injuries possible. And they can do it quite quickly. It's almost incredible how fast they can. Oh, is that what I think it is? Actually, on the opposite bank, just below the cars, it is not what I thought it was. It is a stick. Don't worry, we will leave it at that. I'll just keep quiet and pretend and not even tell you what I thought it was. But it always pays to check. So we're going to spend a little bit more time here at the river with the monsters of the Mara and see if the zebras decide to brave it before last light. In the meantime, James is with the new kings of the northern Sabi Sands.
Well, yes, I suppose you might describe them as the new kings. I'm going to sneeze, everybody. I do apologise. Excuse me. Somebody's got it in my nose. I think it's some dust. Whew. Anyway, there are the new kings eating away. Now, we haven't seen much in the way of lions this week. We did have one wonderful sighting of the Nkuhumas, of course, on foot, and that was tremendously special. Wild Painted, is that your name? Wild Painted? The Nkuhuma, not the Nkuhumas, the evokers arrived apparently sometime this morning. This went down last night sometime, and the evokers arrived to lift it from its erstwhile owners sometime during the course of this morning. You can see that they have been eating for some time, and you can tell that from the one that the one you can see at the back there, just from the way that he's obviously breathing so heavily. Yes, Joshua, we too have missed the evoker boys and are very pleased to have them back with us here. Then, of course, they're not the only predators out here, or meat eaters. If we look around in the skies, or in the trees, there are a lot of vultures. And the closest vulture is a hooded vulture. And you can see that they are, well, if you can imagine the playground at school and the little fellow who was always the butt of the jokes, always being beaten up by everyone else, and when the bullies set upon the slightly smaller boys, those slightly smaller boys would then set upon the really small boys, and that is what you're looking at there. The hooded vulture is the bottom end of vulture society, and although it might be sitting there thinking I'm quite brave sitting close to the lions, as soon as the lions depart, the big white-backed vultures all around here are going to come in and chase away the hooded vulture. And the hooded vulture's got that hooked small beak because it can then take advantage of the bits of meat that the bigger beaked white-backed vultures are unable to. But they will have to wait until the whitebacks are done. Or be very careful lest they get pecked. Then Sensor, just to the right of that, there is a white-backed vulture, and you can actually see it white back, which is quite unusual. Very nice. Now, I'm sure a lot of you who've never seen a picture of the back end of a white-backed vulture must be wondering why on earth they're called white-backed vultures. Well, that is why. You saw that white back, and apparently that allows them to follow each other to kills. It reflects the sun very nicely. I think that's quite a good explanation for why it's there. I can't imagine another one. Alrighty, let's go back to the lions now. It's very nice to actually have them doing something. Piva, yes, I suppose at some time we will give the evokers names. They don't have any names at the moment. I'm not sure what that waterbuck's name was. You can see his face now. He is obviously late, as they say in this part of the world. He's no longer with us. The evokers, I suppose, we'll probably name when we see them slightly more frequently. At the moment, we talked about this before, didn't we? We decided we should name them after different varietals of avocados, because of course evoker is French for avocado, and I think we came up with some wonderful varietals, ones that I'd never heard of before. That's right, Pinkleton was one of them. I think Pinkerton the male lion is a fantastic name. Haas, Pinkerton Haas, and I'm not sure what the other one was. There was an almost shutdown of the Twitter servers when we suggested this, because people were deeply distressed that we were thinking about naming lions after avocado varietals. And that, of course, caused those who were suggesting it to tease those who didn't like it even further, causing a further meltdown of the internet. Pinkerton, Guacamole and Haas, I think, is what we decided. Don't worry, those are not official names, everybody. We'll no doubt give them local names, locally relevant names at some stage. Now, Jamie had a very interesting situation this morning where Waffles' cubs were being, or certainly her den site was being investigated by two interloping male lions. Let's go and find out what they're doing now.
I did indeed, and I'm really hoping that for my last drive in the Mara, we get to see Waffles and her cub before it's time for me to head back to camp. James, as usual, displaying his enormous talent when it comes to naming animals. I think we'll have to keep him well away from these two boys. What do you think, boys? Lest he cause more disruption on the internet. I think we'll wait just a little bit longer to see if we can figure out exactly where it is these boys come from, who they are, and what exactly their background is. And that could take quite a while. They're quite distinctive boys, though. We can't really count the missing tail tip, because that's a relatively recent injury. But the nicks out of their ears and their whisker spots are very clear. So hopefully we should be able to figure out... Okay, wait. I don't want to... Sorry, Kirst, I didn't quite hear you, but I think what I'm going to have to do is send you back across to Juma, because something interesting is playing out with the lions there.
Going live. Now, very interestingly, something has arrived here. In fact, have probably been there all day long. I thought it was a little bit strange when we got here that the Nkuhumas weren't around, but there they are. They're actually just popped their heads up out of the shade, and we'll go and have a look at them shortly. Sensor spotted them with his fantastic eyes. And this is very interesting, of course, because it means that they weren't chased off the kill and put to flight. They were chased off the kill, certainly, but they have remained around these male lions, so they obviously no longer feel any kind of threat for them. But let's go and see, perhaps, if there aren't more than we can see there, and maybe the entire pride of 11 is there. Let's go and have a look. That's very exciting. Nikita, I'm not sure what the figures would be or how you would compare what the figures were with anything that you might have a reference for, but the great legend is that a lion is powerful enough to slap a man's head clean off his shoulders. So if he was to take a full swipe and cuff you around the sort of jaw and ear area, your head would come clean off your shoulders. So, I mean, whether that's true or not, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how many people have actually tested it. But they are immensely powerful. I think we as human beings really don't have a very good understanding of just how feeble we are as physical specimens. Now, there's a slender mongoose knocking about here as well. It's got one lioness in front of us. And you can see some others, can you, Senzo? One walking away and one here. Well, here are two of them. Let me just go around this way. She's looking up towards the south, sorry. So there we go. Yes, Cal 6, you'd think so, wouldn't you? 11 versus 3 doesn't seem like very good odds. A male lion, however, is designed to fight. That is what they're designed to do, not necessarily with females, but normally with other males in order to protect their territories. And so you will find that, yeah, even 11 lionesses are going to struggle to put 3 males to flight. Also, remember that of the 11, 6 of them are sub-adults, which means they will be very reticent to tangle physically with male lions. Now, I think she's looking up towards the rest of the pride. Well, she's not, she's just having a yawn, but the other one I think is looking up towards the rest of the pride, so I think maybe we should go and have a look and see if we can't find them. We'll just drive up this game path. I can see some lion tracks on it. They're coming this way though, so I think they were these chaps. Oops, just drove into a small tree behind us. Senzo made a sort of slight grunting noise. I wasn't really sure what he meant. Just quickly see, she's looking straight up in this direction. It might be at the vultures, but it might be at the rest of the pride. Nasty chilly breeze coming out of the southeast. I think it's going to be quite cold once the sun does go down. What a fantastic way to start our afternoon. She's looking at some impala actually. I can see some impala and zebras, but I don't see the rest of the pride. They've come all the way along this game path here, which leads directly to a pan in Simbambili called One-Eyed Pan. And I wonder if that's not where the rest of the pride are. We'll do a quick loop around there while you go back to the Masai Mara, to Brent, who is going to use alliteration to describe the river, that is the Mara, in which things die.
Well, as you know, when you're live out in the African bush, anything can happen at any moment. And while we were patiently sitting for some zebras to possibly leap into the murderous Mara River, a herd of wildebeest came rushing down from the opposite bank, and it looked like they were going to plunge immediately towards the waiting death of the Nile crocodile, but unfortunately, well, they sort of stopped and having a bit of a team talk. I would, before I swam across the stretch of the river. This monster male croc is still right next to us at the moment. As I say, he weighs probably a good 600-700 kilograms, about 4 meters in length. And this is the first wildebeest in a long time we've seen on the opposite side of the river. Sav's wondering, have we seen any kills made by the crocs this week? I don't know if it was this week or last week. We saw one zebra that was killed by quite a big crocodile. It was a very small crossing. So these crocodiles have had it quite tough this year. There have been very, very few crossings in the northern part of the Mara. Most of the crossings have happened at the steep bank crossings down south, where there are very few crocodiles. And they're a bit hungry this year. They might have to top up on catfish for the rest of the year, because the wildebeest are probably not going to be around for too much longer. The zebra will, as they're normally the first to cross, they'll also cross for a little bit longer. But it looks like these wildebeest might have changed their mind, and they might actually head down towards Dusty Crossing. Or they might just stay on that side of the river for tonight. Who knows what goes through a wildebeest's brain? Not me, that's for certain. Oh, Arch, right up ahead of us at Main North, there's a hippo fight going on. Far in the distance, a little bit to the left. Looked quite serious for a second there. You can see that male flicking its tail, and look at that snort. So obviously a territorial male trying to defend his group of females from an interloper, or possibly even a young male that he's pushing out of the raft of hippopotamus. Looks like it's calmed down a little bit there, as our wildies are moving off. But there is a zebra coming up to the crossing, so maybe the zebras might take the chance. And all it does is take one. Heads are up. I think we should just stick around here a little bit. I think these zebras... Well, let's give them a second or two, see what they do. If they stay standing there, there's more zebras coming in as well. And I think they might need a bit of time to build some courage. So I'm going to sit right here. In the meantime, let's send you across to Jamie. Oh no, we're not going to Jamie's. We're going to stick with us. Joshua wants to know if hippos ever go after animals crossing the Mara River. Sometimes they do. And hippos are very unpredictable. Sometimes they might save an animal from the crocodiles. Other times they might actually feed off that animal themselves. I've seen hippo feed on wildebeest. I've seen them feed on giraffe. I've seen them feed on other hippos. It is quite rare. Normally they are obviously herbivores, but occasionally they do eat meat, and occasionally they might just kill one of the passing animals for no reason in particular, apart from the fact that they're annoyed that they are close to them. Now, some of these crocs seem to have picked up that there's animals around, because they're starting to move sort of right into the spot where the animals are across. Okay, well, I don't think anything's going to happen just yet, so we're going to keep our patient pants on, sit right here. In the meantime, let's send you across to Jamie with some sleepy lions.
So while Brent keeps his patient's pants on, for which we are all eternally grateful, the indecisiveness of the wildebeest has truly worked in the animal's favour out here. Look at the battle scars on these young lions. War wounds at a young age, as I assume they are seeking to establish themselves in this area. That's what seems to be the case. It spells bad news for some of the lion prides around here, as a territorial takeover always does in the initial periods of its beginnings, just the same with the Avokas and the Nkuhumas. But for the hyenas of North Clan, they are quite used to lions wandering around. I'm not too concerned about Waffles, but we'll have to wait and see how that plays out this afternoon. However, the hyenas are far more concerned with taking advantage of both the arrival of the migration and the stormy weather we've experienced. The localized yet heavy rains that we have been experiencing in the Mara have transformed North Clan land back into its usual swampy state, and the hyena revel under these conditions. After a massive downpour, we happened upon Fergus, who was loping over the mushy ground, hunting in the half-hearted manner of a hyena simply trying his luck. With boundless stamina on his side, all Ferg had to do was run into the scattered antelope and zebra, causing chaos while looking for a weakness. His attention was diverted by the tantalizing prospect of an old, sinewy carcass. Not much nutrition there. He was joined by his mother Waffles and began to behave like a small cub rather than a fully grown male in his prime. Perhaps even hyena revert when in the company of their parents. Waffles waited for her son to lose interest in the pile of old bones before the two of them set off on a hunting mission together, just like old times. Waffles may have new cubs, but that doesn't mean that she has forgotten about her two boys. They moved off and left us in their wake. And leave us in their wake they did, because there was simply no way that we could follow them over that wet ground. A truly lovely sight to see that Waffles is not completely distracted by her two new cubs, and in fact still loves her boys equally, because the time we've spent with her in the past, she has always been with them, always following them around, and I can only imagine that they feel a little bereft. Now, as our lions sleep peacefully, the same cannot be said for the lions of Djuma.
No, what we've got here is a lioness of the Nkuhuma pride now staring down the males who've just become aware of these two lionesses. We've been driving around seeing if the rest of the pride is here. They are not. They seem to be on Simbambili, I think. So it's just the two lionesses here at the moment. And those males have spotted them and they're looking this way. Now, whether they will decide to come up here and investigate is anyone's guess. It is a cool afternoon, only about 23 degrees Celsius or so, and so the chances are quite strong that, you know, they could move and come up here and see what's going on. Child of the universe, I think it's unlikely that the Nkuhumas would try and chase off a lone hostile male, unless, of course, there were cubs that they felt were threatened. I have seen females chase males. I've seen them bite them. I mean, we had that tremendous fight with Brent, where I think it was the Birmingham boys. Two of them started having a go at each other, and then the females got involved and bit them both. So it's not like they won't fight with males, but they'll be very careful of them, especially if they've got sub-adults with them. Now, one of those males has started slinking off towards the right-hand side of your picture, and the lioness was very aware of it. The other lioness has also lifted her head now. She was looking a bit sleepy. She's just behind that stick, I'm afraid. I can just try and sneak slightly forward. Shall I do that, Senzel? Quite a nice little standoff we've got going here. And who knows if this is the first meeting that they've had. Is that all right? Yeah, Lorena, good thought. You wonder if this is Amber Eyes and the youngest lioness. I'm not sure. I haven't managed to see adequately yet. He's fascinated. I can't see the other two. I don't know if one of them isn't coming around the side. No, there's one to his left, I think. I doubt they'll try and flank these lionesses. I think they just walk straight up to them if they wanted to really find out what was going on. See him glancing to his left there, our right. Maybe Maybe the other male's coming this way. But like I say, these lionesses don't seem to be particularly distressed. There's definitely one on his right-hand side, our left, still eating. And back to the food. Oh, are we? Giraffe girl, they look like they're relatively well fed, but there's still quite a lot of meat left on that carcass, so I don't know how much of it they ate. They're certainly not full, the Nkuhumas. They may have had a little bit before they were chased off. I suppose also, you know, they must still be quite nervous of the youngsters, some of whom are almost 2 years old and others have just passed 2 years old. But one of those evokers is very interested. He's not interested enough to get up here and come and say, hello, what's going on? One wonders if it's just teenage nerves, perhaps. He's seen a lady through the grass and thinking to himself, oh, I'd like to go and say hello, but I don't know what I'd say, you know. I mean, hi, my name's George, or my name's Pinkerton. What's your name? You know, I mean, Amber Eyes, if that is her, is an intimidating lioness. See, look, he's looking away now. He seems to be slightly shamed by the fact that he's not prepared to come and say hello to her. His mates are saying to him, come on, Pinkers, off you go. Say hi. He's saying, well, I'm not, you know, I'd like to, but I mean, I'm a bit nervous. Namaste. I anticipate something if they do meet up between a fight and a greeting. I don't think that they are well acquainted enough for it to be a friendly head-rubbing event. But I don't think that the males would try and tear the females apart. She's still looking towards them. Now, there could be two reasons for this. One, they're hungry. That's the most obvious reason. The other is, of course, that there's still a negotiated settlement to be made here between the evokers and the Nkuhuma Pride. Now, when the Birmingham boys came into this area, they started killing everything they could find, and they murdered a few lionesses here. He's moving now. They murdered a few lionesses from the original Nkuhuma Pride, and one of them eventually went and made peace with the evokers, and we had a tremendous sighting one evening, late one evening. We drove out, and there we had the 5 Birmingham boys, I think it was, that's right, and one of the Nkuhuma lionesses. And she tried to entice each of them to mate with her, and eventually one did. And quite apart from how embarrassingly obvious it was that the male didn't know what he was doing, it was fascinating to see how she was trying to coax them, appease them, and show her acceptance of them, quite possibly for the rest of the pride. There we go. Now he's laying down, and so she's probably quite safe. Fantastic stuff. All right, I think we'll go and have another look at the males now, while we go all the way across to the Marcy Mara, where Brent Leo Smith remains on the banks of the great river itself.
So while we play the patience game down at the edge of the Mara River, we've got a lovely Rupel's starling to show you, sitting right next to us. Isn't that wonderful? Even though there's very little light, you can still see the iridescence coming off his feathers. And the little midges buzzing around his head. Now, we've had a bit of an interesting development on the opposite bank. Is now that big herd of zebras also has come to join the wildebeest, and they seem to be having a big chit-chat about whether it's going to be worth their while to brave the river before sunset. Now, with the zebras arriving, I think it actually increases the chance of a crossing happening. What we really need is some zebras to start braying on the opposite bank. That normally gets them going properly. Just watch carefully. We've got time, and the most important thing when you're out in the African bush is patience, patience, patience. Okay, so while we play the patience game with, oh, there's a little zebra fight, but a kick to the face. They are quite horrible to each other, but not as horrible as lions are to them. Let's go catch up with the Olololo Pride again on their search for food. The Olololos, still surrounded by the migration, continued the haphazard hunting style, but with no luck. Although it seems they had fed the night before, so hunting was not a serious business. Before too long, they settled down in the shade of a gardenia, hoping rather that a wildebeest would come to them. Well, the zebras seem to be going one way, the wildebeest the other. It's going to be interesting to see what happens here. Will they move back up towards the main north crossing, or will zebras heading down towards main south prompt the wildebeest to change their mind and join the mass as they try avoid the jaws of death that live in the Mara River? One thing I've learnt in all my years in the African bush is not to predict too much. I think let's wait and see what happens. Now, of course, a gathering of wildebeest and zebra around the crossings like this might attract the attention of the paradise pride of lions that love to hang around at the crossings and pick off wounded or weak wildebeest and zebra, and topi for that matter, before or after they cross the Mara River. See that? Still quite a pretty sight though, the wildebeest and zebra mixed. I'd say there's probably a few more wildebeest than zebra, but not too many more. Now, it's quite uncommon for them to cross in the dark. Normally you get some crossings very early in the morning and quite a few during the day, and then in the next sort of half an hour is the last sort of crossing time. There looks to be some zebras that are approaching the river with a little bit more intent. Are you the brave zebra who will lead the mass? It looks like the wildebeest have decided they're not going to follow the zebra. I'm sure the crocodiles can't wait. As I say, it's been tough for the crocs at the northern crossings this year. While we continue to play the patience game here at Main South Crossing, let's send you back to James Hendry, who's still with those male lions munching on a waterbuck.
Yes, they are munching away, and they've actually got quite a lot to eat, I think, still. And so I think from what I understand, there was a bit of a consternation this morning. I'm not sure what time. Oh, chopper flying over. It's either doing some kind of guarding job or game counting job or something like that. All the vultures have taken to the skies in terror. I'm not sure what they thought they were going to do when they were in the sky. Look at the blood on the paw. Can we go to the paw of the one? Yeah, that's the one sense. Ew. Anyway, it's very good to be in their company once again. And one of the lionesses apparently moving. We can't see her from here. We're just going to wait and see if she appears, and we'll let you know. We are, of course, here with other people from Biffle's Hook, and they've spotted one of the females moving. Coastside, I'm not really sure how to answer that question. Do lions come in more than 2 or 3 colours, or do you mean sort of red, yellow or blue? They're mostly yellow. Never seen a blue or a red one. You're probably talking about leucism or albinism. Yes, you do get leucistic lions or white lions. They look not quite albino, but they certainly look a lot blonder than these ones. Their manes come in different colours. Often in this area, a blacker mane indicates more dominance, more testosterone. These chaps won't have black manes until a little bit later in their lives. But otherwise, lions are relatively similar colours. The ones up in the Masai Mara are exactly the same colours as these ones. But quite interestingly, they are a slightly different shape. Their ears up there are very boxy and very hairy. And I was chatting about this with Tristan the other day, and he reckons it's because the wind blows constantly over there, and that the hairs perhaps protect the lion's ears up in the Masai Mara from the wind. So while we were on foot this morning, we did get a radio call that there were some lions, what they thought, fighting around this area, and this is what it turned out to be. And while I think that the initial thought was that the lions, the males were having a fight, you'll probably find that it was the males chasing the females off this kill. It's wonderful. Right, Jamie Patterson's got some male lions, probably slightly younger than these ones, as far as I understand. But I did understand from her this morning that they'd been roaring, so I don't really understand why that happened.
And a whole host of other antelope off in the distance. And if these boys are planning a territorial takeover, which I think that they are, I think that's what they're going to have planned. I mean, they were roaring this morning, admittedly, probably the most half-hearted roar I've ever heard in my entire life, but they did roar this morning. So if they're aiming to take over this territory, it would be a very productive place to be. They'll have to get moving a little bit later, but there does seem to be a vacuum that they are slotting into when it comes to the absence of male lions around here. However, if they were really intent on the best possible territory, then they would probably be aiming for the banks of the Mara River, because that is where all the action happens, as the Paradise Pride well knows. There are few things as mesmerizing as watching a big cat stalking up to unsuspecting prey, and the Paradise Pride seemed to have it down to an art. A group of topi that were distracted and distressed at the prospect of crossing the Mara River had no idea that the danger was not in front of them, but rapidly closing the distance from behind. The lioness made her break, and the herd scattered. Most of the topi raced to safety along the river, but one topi unwittingly went in the wrong direction, straight towards where the rest of the pride were hidden in the thicket. The topi was surrounded on every side, and its demise seemed inevitable. Yet somehow it bounded away unscathed. Even the lions seemed a tad confused about how on earth they missed that one. Honestly, to this day, I'm still not entirely sure how the Paradise Pride missed that topi. However, I think that the sheer abundance of food has made the lions relatively lackluster in their hunting attempts. Shame he's got a puncture wound there on his leg. Hey boy. Oh, it rolled over now. Now we can't see it. Male lions, when they're very young, are always sort of smooth and uninjured and beautiful looking. And then they get to the stage where their face and their bodies tell the story of the path that their life has taken them down. And these boys have just started that mapping. One, of course, has got a truly permanent injury with that missing tail tip, but the network of scars will eventually crisscross across their entire face. Say my name, boy. The manes on these lions are short because they are young. There is a certain genetic factor, depending upon where you are in Africa, that will affect the growth of the male's manes. In some really hot places to the north of where we are now, you'll actually find that male lions hardly develop manes at all because they are more of a disadvantage than anything else. And there's a genetic aspect to that as well. So these boys, I would say, the youngest one, who is right now got his legs right in the air, is not providing us with a view of his mane, I would say he's not much older than 3 years old, if that. His mane is still very, very small. These boys are young to have moved and to start searching for a territory. It's interesting. But perhaps they too have realized there's a vacuum here that they can capitalize on. I think they have. I think that's what their plan is. The flies are starting to really bug them. With all of their open wounds, the flies are sitting on them after all the rain that we've had. Now the plan from here, I did say to Manu at the halfway mark, we were going to go and check on Waffles and just see if she's come across to the den. We'll do a quick loop, see if we can find her. She might have gone back to the rest of the clan, rather. See if we can find her. If we can't, then we will return to these gentlemen who should be getting up as the sun starts to go down. As the likelihood of these lions getting up grows ever greater as the sun goes down, the likelihood of those zebra crossing and the window period that they have is rapidly closing.
Well, the zebra and wildebeest have spread out now. Some of them moving away from the river, some of them just having a graze. So I still think there's a chance of a potential crossing. And I think we're going to have to play the patience game a little longer. And fortunately for us, in not too long, we're going to be the only people out in the Mara. So if it does happen, we'll be right here. And as we know with nature, it is always a patience game. Oh, zebras. They're so nasty to each other. Hello, Ivy. Ivy would like to know, are there any predators that go after the crocodiles? When a crocodile's at this size, Ivy, very little will go after it. The lions will occasionally fight with them, and lions will eat small crocodiles if the opportunity arises. So will leopards. But the biggest threat to a big crocodile is an even bigger crocodile. So they can injure and kill each other quite frequently. And a big male crocodile like this one sitting right next to us, he would often eat smaller crocodiles. There's straight ahead, Arch. Now that is very unusual. They almost never cross in that position. I've never seen a crossing at that spot. I'm just going to move forward a bit. Oh no, croc gave them a fright already. It's over. A croc jumped up and moved and gave them a fright. See, there we go. There's that croc. Those crocs gave them a fright. They nearly stood on the crocodile's head. Well, that was very short-lived, but it did get rid of half of the cars that were surrounding us. That wildebeest nearly stood on that crocodile. silly gnu. Now, that might be it for the evening. That might be enough of a scare that they might not cross. The zebras seem to have decided that they're not going to cross. There's the croc that nearly got walloped by a wildebeest on the head. That was quite funny. But now you can see the zebras and the wildies streaming away from the river for now. Now, wildebeest being wildebeest, they could change their mind in the split second. It is quite pretty though in this lovely diffused late evening light. I don't know, I've still got a feeling I think we're going to play our patience game a little bit longer, but while we do that, let's send you back to South Africa to James and the Evokers.
Well, I'm very glad that Brent has a feeling that something's going to happen there with his crossing. Of course, it is one of the most exciting things you can see in the wilderness, a crossing of the Great Mara River. Crocodiles snapping, canoes canoeing, zebras going wah 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 as they attempt their swim. I can't imagine a more terrifying gauntlet in all the world. And apparently that particular crossing being ruined by yet another intellectually challenged crocodile. I've come to the conclusion that their existence over the millennia has got nothing to do with their intelligence and much to do with the fact that they are able to hide in the water, and other animals seem to forget that they are there. Because the number of crossings I've seen ruined by an over-enthusiastic crocodile, probably more than the number of crossings I've seen. So the evoker males are still feeding, or one of them is. One of them has become recumbent to the right, and another one, well, just lifted his head a little bit further to the right of that. I'm not sure if we can see him. Senzo, can you even see him? His neb is just sticking out from behind that bush. There we are. Wonderful shot. Miss Lynn, I have no idea how the Styx are reacting to the evokers. I think that you'll find that the Styx pride, for the moment, is going to stick well within the ambit of the Birmingham boys, and that is because they have got much younger cubs, much younger ones in their pride, and if the evokers were to get hold of them, I think they'd do some serious damage. So I think you'll find the Styx are going to stick a long way to the south of their range for quite some time yet. Beastly wind coming up, real chill on it. This is not unusual for September. We get these fronts moving in, and in fact this particular front has been very severe in some parts of the country, and there are photographs coming out of elephants walking about in the snow, and that seems to be in the Eastern Cape. So it is a fairly severe front coming through here. Now I'm going to put it to you, our wonderful viewers. Obviously it's been a leopard week and we've had a lot of leopard highlight. Would you like me to remain with these lions for the next hour of this 14th episode of Safari Lives, or would you like me to go and try and find a leopard? There are no guarantees. Nobody has found a leopard today, and nobody did find one this morning. So it's really up to you. I'm more than happy to sit here. I'm more than happy to go and look for a leopard if you would like me to. Hashtag SafariLive, or use the chat stream on YouTube. Senzo was just saying that he can see a bird, but he's not sure if it's the same as all the others. Ah, that is beautifully spotted, Senzo. Your eyes are really quite special. That's a tawny eagle. Beautifully spotted. So the tawny eagle, as we often say, is a scavenger, and here it is, sitting in amongst the less fancied vultures, thinking to itself, how did I find myself amongst this sort of unsalubrious company? Very nice. All right, while you're voting, Jamie has left her lions, and I'm going to bet you $1 million that she's on the way to find Waffles and Waffles' cubs at Waffles' den.
Well, I don't know if I can find where I want to go. I'm trying to find Waffles, but I can't drive off-road unless I see her. I can't simply take myself off and drive back to where I think I left her, because actually, to be honest, I have no idea where she might be. So I'm going past some of the old den sites, looking to see if I can spot her. She could easily be resting up in the shade, or she might have decided to wait out the lion invasion and has gone to go spend some time with the rest of her clan, which were over this side this morning. At the end of the morning safari, we came this way and we discovered vultures on a carcass and some very fat hyenas around. So that's where they will be. They'll be around here, and she might be with them. I'm hoping that's the case, but what I'm really hoping for, obviously without any risk to Waffles' little cubs, is that she brings them out for us so that we can show them to you. Those of you who've been watching over the course of the week will know they are utterly adorable, utterly charming, and they're starting to spend a lot more time out of their den. The day we had been waiting for from the moment we discovered Waffles' cubs had finally arrived. At 5 weeks old, the Wafflets were full of youthful energy and kept themselves occupied by climbing their mother, wrestling each other, or wrestling each other while climbing their mother. Wrinkled and completely uncoordinated, they are already starting to show distinctive personalities. The tatty-eared cub is the bolder of the two, and it was quite happy to wander off as long-suffering Waffles trailed behind to make sure it was safe. The round-eared cub, clearly the more dominant, is actually more reserved and was reluctant to leave the safety of the den entrance. It dashed between the two holes before looking around for Mum, anxiety written all over its tiny face. Eventually, the absence of Waffles and its sibling coaxed it back out into the open to join them. A hyena den visit wouldn't be complete without a game of tug-of-war, and the tatty-eared cub kindly obliged us with a demonstration on a stick. Waffles, an experienced and loving mother, rounded off a wonderful morning by flopping down on one of her cubs. Finishing off with Waffles giving us an astounding demonstration of her mothering skills there. Hyena cubs are built tough. That's what they have to be. It's a tough world they're entering into, and there's lots of competition from other clan mates, so they have to be as tough as they can be from the earliest age. Now, it's not just Waffles having babies. I'm just going to stop here at these warthogs. I've seen one or two tiny little piglets wandering around. He definitely won't have piglets because he's a boy. That is a male warthog. But there's a possibility. I haven't seen any around this side. It's odd. The births seem to be really localized around certain areas. Because I first saw piglets about 3-4 weeks ago away from here. No, definitely not. No little piggies there. The topi have also started giving birth. There's quite a few of them around North Clan's territory. In fact, this is the most wildebeest and topi I've seen in North Clan's territory since the start of the migration. Lots and lots of food around for them here. All they'll need to do is wait until they bunch up together at night and then race into the middle of them, just as Ferg was doing last week, and trying to catch one. Any baby topi? No baby topi. Okay. Let's continue our circuit round. I'm going to just go back around to where I last saw Waffles. Let's see if we can find her. I'm really hoping It's my last night in the Mara. It's just sheer stubbornness at this point. James is far less stubborn than I am. He put something to a vote. Let's go and find out what the answer was.
I'm not sure that I'm far less stubborn, but anyway, we are still here, and apparently the vote is in, and the answer is 75% of you want to stay with the lions, and 25% of you say lions suck, and you'd rather go and see some leopards. Well, sorry for you, we're going to stay with the lions. You didn't really say that, of course, you'd just like to see some leopards. I like to see leopards all the time. But I'm very interested to see these lions as well. Now, what was very interesting there is that he looks pretty skinny. And in fact, the muscle tone on his back end really didn't look very good at all. So I don't know where these guys have been since we last saw them. Well, I mean, I know they've been up north. I don't know what they've been doing though. He doesn't look like he's in the best condition of his life. So maybe things have been a little bit more difficult than we think they have for the Avoca males. He's looking ponderously up towards the north. The lionesses haven't moved since we last saw them, so I don't think they're going to come down here. I think, rather like the vultures, they're sitting here in hope, waiting for these lions perhaps to go off and have a drink. There's a waterhole not too far from here. I'll wait for them to go and have a drink before they sneak in, steal a bit to eat, and then come back. All right, well, we'll stay with the lions for another segment or two. Brent Leo Smith apparently is with a very sad-looking striped pajama donkey. I don't know why it should be sad, but I'm sure he'll tell us.
Okay, well, we come to check on the wounded zebra, and no signs of North Clan or any lions just yet. But that doesn't mean they're not going to arrive. So I think we're going to hang around here. Oh, no. It's managed to sit down. It's moved about 10 meters since we first saw it. And we're at that time of the evening when the predators will start patrolling. Oh, look what's already on its way. There's a little black-backed jackal. So directly in front of me. Now, the zebras might not be wounded enough for the jackal to take it down, but it might definitely pester that zebra. Now, Trish is asking, why don't they help the zebra? I thought they helped all the wounded animals in the Mara. Certain animal species, Trish, and lions, leopard, elephants, and most of the time, well, with the species that are not lions, it is only if it is a human injury. This injury is definitely from a crocodile, and humans had nothing to do with it. It's part of nature's cycle, so the predators will feast. It's going to be interesting to see what this little jackal does. Now, the zebra actually just put its head down completely, so it's lying flat. So that little jackal might approach it like it's a carcass and might get a big surprise. We might see a flying jackal. I have seen that before. Has the jackal stopped to be cautious, or is it just behind some grass, long grass, and still moving? The zebra lifted its head. The jackal, being a little bit more cautious, is taking a slightly wider berth. And it'll be hoping for the North Clan or Paradise Pride to find the zebra, and it can then feed off the scraps. So there is the injured zebra. It's lifted its head now. Now, sometimes nature can be quite gruesome to watch. if you think I've got patience pants and can sit it out waiting for something to happen, I've got nothing on a jackal or a hyena. Look how that zebra's ears have gone completely flat. So any of you who have horses at home or have spent much time with horses, it's a sign of distress or anger when the ears go flat like that. So even the presence of a predator as small as a jackal is enough to cause that zebra's ears to go flat. I'm just keeping scanning around, trying to see where or if there are any other large predators about. Now, I know a lot of you are feeling quite sorry for the zebra, but just think about the little jackal and the meal he's going to get out of this once the other bigger predators arrive. Everything is connected. Unfortunately for this zebra, it's time for it to recycle its nutrients back into the ecosystem. Right, with the zebra head still up, that jackal knows if it gets too close, it will get a big kick. While we continue our vigil, this time not for zebras crossing, but for a wounded zebra waiting for a predator to arrive. This is what we call a pramble, a prey gamble, while we wait around for something to happen. In the meantime, let's send you across to Jamie, who's on the move.
Vigil. We're back again. I forgot there's no such thing as a short loop in the Mara. So I've done a little reverse back on myself along the road where we last saw Waffles. And nothing, to be honest. So there's the den tree, the balanites. Oh, I forgot. I promised Archie I'd hug a tree. Completely forgot. Oh well. I can't hug that one. It's right next to the den. Listen. I just caught the tail end of a whoop. Sounded like a young whoop. Not a cub though. Maybe one of the older ones. But from that direction, I think. It's interesting. Could also, of course, be Happy Zebra, because the North Clan's den is surprisingly close to their boundary, their territorial boundary. Ooh, excuse me. It's the dust. Okay. Let's just go see. Sounded a little bit far to be next to Waffles' den. Beautiful sunset, but it's already very, very chilly. The temperature's dropping rapidly. And if we don't have any luck, we're not going to sit outside her den, just in case for some reason discourages her from returning. Not that it ever has in the past, but with the lions there, I think we'll probably rather go back to the lions and keep alternating between the two. We're nearly there. I left her somewhere here. I should have taken close, and I should actually have GPS'd where I was, because a hyena can vanish. It's phenomenal how a hyena can disappear into this ecosystem. They find themselves a deep, muddy hole and they go and hide there in long grass, and it's impossible to find them again. I think it was here. I think I came out this side. Let's go a little bit quicker. Okay, we're going to go around the corner. Fingers crossed Waffles is there while we do that. James, who also, fortunately for us, has his patience pants on, is still with the evokers.
I do not have my patience pants on. I've got my celebratory weekend pants on, which I've shown you many times, of course, before. I think they're very, very fancy indeed. I wear them for the kids' show and for SafariLives. I also wore them for the TV shows. Now, everything's quietened down here. The lions are doing what lions do best, which of course is absolutely nothing. There they are, doing absolutely nothing. One of them lifted its head very briefly and then put it down again. And so while we enjoy these lions, as I said at the beginning, it has been a rather leopard-filled week, and young Hosanna, aged 2.5 years, has been trying out various hunting techniques.
Hosanna had a hungry time of it this week, his last big meal being the bits of impala he stole from Tundi. He never looks thin, so he must be eating small things frequently. Squirrels and scrub hares his most likely victims. The little chief spent a lot of time experimenting with various hunting techniques, often during daylight hours. He focused on two main areas, Treehouse Waterhole and the Gallagher Pan near camp. These obviously provide water, but also ample opportunity for ambush. Spending so much time with a hunting cat shows again and again how difficult it is for the predators out here to catch a decent meal and then keep it for themselves.
So that was Hosanna on the hunt. He didn't catch a waterbuck like this, although in theory one day he might be able to. I suppose probably always be slightly too big for him. But I think that Herbert and I were discussing it earlier today as we walked past a tree in which we'd seen him eating a fully grown impala before he disappeared the first time, so, a good 6 or 7 months ago. And I have to ask myself why it is that he isn't either A, succeeding in catching big prey like that now, or B, not trying to catch big prey like that. Is it because he's getting enough in the way of squirrels and scrub hares and small things? Or has he lost his confidence perhaps in some way? Is it just that he's going through a phase? I don't know. But it has been a while since we've seen him kill something that size. I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong. I just think it's quite interesting that for the last little while the only things we've seen him eating are squirrels and scrub hares. And then there was the duiker that we heard that he was feeding on yesterday morning, but that was most likely killed by Tundi, we think, unless she joined him at a kill that he had made. And Herbert was also saying to me earlier today that he had seen that before. He'd seen sisters, older sisters, going to fetch younger brothers, and younger brothers going to fetch older sisters to their kills. Now, whether that's happened here or not, I doubt it has. But the leopard dynamics certainly are very interesting, and I'm just fascinated by why Hosanna is not killing bigger prey. I think it's normal for any predator during the dry season to concentrate their activities around waterholes. That's because obviously the prey that they like to eat has to come down and drink, and in the case of things like impala or buffalo, they must drink often twice a day towards the real business end of the dry season. And so it is not uncommon to find them feeding or trying to feed around waterholes. The one thing I completely and utterly forgot to do today is go to see Scoobert. Now Scoobert, our little lapwing is still alive, and I completely forgot. Now, I think that if these lions do not get up and do something in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to go down and see Scoobert and see if we can't find Hosanna lurking around the same place. The lionesses are not going to come here while the males are here. I don't think the males are going to go anywhere until they have finished this kill. So let's go back across to Leo Smith, who apparently has put his patience pants down, and he's now driving around the place. We're going to head off and see if we can't find Scoobert and a leopard.
Well, we've left our preamble because fortunately our friends from Michigan State University Hyena Research Project are going to watch that zebra for us so we can wander around a little bit. But the sky is on fire this evening. Look at that sunset. Isn't that absolutely spectacular? Magical. Oh, man. The Mara skies are tough to beat. Just so peaceful if you just keep quiet and listen for a second. Of course, then we hear a car and some people making some noise. Murphy's Law. Now, while the sun continues to set, we're going to send you to almost directly below where that sun is setting to see what the Olololo Pride has been up to next. The Olololo Pride have become set in the Sausage Tree Pride lands, vocalizing and making their presence known. These lands are rich with the bounty of the migration, unlike the north of the triangle where they have moved from. With so much food around, their hunting has been almost haphazard. With the migrating herds surrounding them, they seem confident of a kill when rather than if. They continue to peruse the herds for any signs of weakness. After dark, one lioness attempted a little more seriously, but unfortunately missed. After failure, they settled down for a nap. Sorry, guys. So I turned around. I'm like, Archie, what are you doing? So we had a flat tire this morning, and Archie put the tire back on the spare side, and I said to him, do you want to tighten those bolts with the wheel span? He's like, no, it's fine. And I was fitting that side. Now all of a sudden I turn around and I see Archie hanging off the car with a wheel spanner, trying to tighten the spare tire as we're moving. Sorry, and I for some reason I thought that was one of the funniest things I've seen in a long time. But I'm going to swing around now again. I heard some guinea fowl alarming. I just wanted to come check. And so you can have a look at that sunset again. And while you do that, wait, before we do that, in front of this big tree, oh, it just dropped its head, whatever it was. So there, down on the, oh, it's a Tommy. Ah, I thought I'd spotted something interesting. There, there's wildebeest and zebra on the other side, but let's quickly go across to that gorgeous ball of fire that supplies light and life to our little world. The sun's about halfway through its life cycle. On average, it lasts about 10 billion years. And it's halfway through its life cycle, the sun. But while we watch the sunset, we're going to send you to James, who's got something better than a sunset, and that's lions in golden light.
We do indeed have a lion in the light, and Senzo has decided that he's going to be very artistic this afternoon. We were pulling out of the sighting, and he eventually said, well, can't you just drive down there and then put the sun behind the lion? So I said, oh, all right. And look at that very pretty shot of an Nkuhuma lioness backlit by the setting sun here in the Western Kruger National Park. Very nice. I don't think that this is Amber Eyes and the youngest lioness, so I'm really not sure which two these are. David, you were asking if the Nkuhumas moved off. Yes, most of them did. But we've got two watching their kill with well, shall we say, hungry eyes, perhaps eyeing out the boys, thinking to themselves, them is quite young, but good looking nevertheless. And you can see how if you were approaching a potential piece of prey, doing it into the sun would be a very good way of getting there without being seen. At least with the sun behind you, not into the sun. You can feel, or you can hear the wind blowing, and I can tell you that it feels very cold. Despite the warmth of this picture. And that's perfectly normal this time of year. These fronts do come through. I tell you what, for something to have the Nkuhuma lionesses up like this, when they could be asleep, they must be pretty hungry. Craigie, all lions' roars sound different to lions, so they're able to recognize individual lions from their roars. The ones up in the Mara, not to my ears, no, they sound very similar to the ones here. Male and female do sound slightly different. Males call for longer. Their individual roars tend to sound slightly longer and probably slightly louder. But I wouldn't say that I've noticed a difference between the roars in the Mara and those here in the Sabi Sands. There we go, the sun's just gone down enough now to make this a really interesting picture. Beautiful, Senzor. Do you feel like an artiste right now? I will just tell you, as Senzor shoots the beautiful golden light pouring onto the Nkuhuma Pride, that not only is he being artistic right now, he's dressed in a quite astonishing array of enormous white bova boots, blue socks with moustaches on them, green jacket, and he's put his dreadlocks up into a side bun. This is really a picture to be seen. The last time I saw a side bun, I think, was on the TV sitcom Three is Company. I'm not sure if you remember it. But the side bun is back now. Isn't that gorgeous? All right, now I believe we are going to have another look at some leopards. This time they're going to be non-live, and they are this time going to be, it is going to be one leopard, and this time she rather longingly was looking for her daughter, quite like these lions are longingly looking at their meat.
Tundi and Tlalamba's tracks had frustrated us all of Tuesday morning around about Treehouse Dam. The boiling afternoon had the Queen resting on a termite mound before setting off on a lengthy quest to find her daughter. She smelt, called, and chuffed to no avail. There is something deeply disquieting about watching a mother looking for her baby without success. Fear for the beloved cub began to build as the hot, silent afternoon wore on and Tundi's efforts continued to bear no fruit. Eventually, the sun set, the Queen gave up, and we were left unsettled as darkness fell. Thankfully, although we didn't see it, the pair was reunited during the night.
Now, many of you were very unsettled and worried after that sighting. The tracks did indicate that Tlalamba and Tundi met up that evening, and then the morning after that, when we were on foot with the Nkuhumas, Aubrey did find Tlalamba, and then we've seen their tracks subsequent to that as well. So she's absolutely fine. But more and more, Tundi is having to look for her, and that evening, or the evening after Tundi, at least Aubrey found Tlalamba, he found Tundi again, and she once more was calling for her daughter. And Tlalamba being recalcitrant, very rebellious, not coming when called. Right, well, that was gorgeous. We're going to go across to Jamie now with wafflies. Surprise, surprise. I'm looking for wafflies, actually. We're going to go and see if we can get a quick view of Scoobert before the sun goes down.
I don't have waffles. I'm really sorry. I know James has got into the habit of linking to me with waffles, and trust me, I wish I was with waffles. I really, really do. Instead, we have a glorious sunset to show you, complete with rain over the escarpment and 2 male lions who are, however unintentionally, responsible for the lack of said waffles. I'm going to have to beg whoever is left behind tomorrow to go straight to Waffles' den first thing in the morning, because I have to tell you, it stinks. The den stinks. Not that I'm leaving stinks. The den stinks. And it doesn't stink like hyena. It smells like rotten meat. And I'm hoping it's because these 2 boys actually killed something close to the den last night, and they finished eating it and they've left it. That's what I'm hoping. Because it really, really smells bad. I've driven past it 3 times trying to decide that I'm imagining it, and we're not imagining it. So we'll have to get people to go first thing tomorrow to go and ascertain the status of Waffles' little wafflets. I'm sure they're fine. And these 2 boys, I was hoping were going to roar. Perhaps give us a demonstration into the Mara lion roaring versus Djuma lion roaring. And there's still the possibility that they could, of course. It is still only, the sun is only just set now. So they'll be getting up shortly. They've got up and moved from where they were underneath the tree. Sparry, you say that we win the sunset. We just happen to be here at the right time, to be honest. Although, I don't suppose it's really me so much as Manu who wins the sunset. Although, we're all winners here, aren't we, Manu? We're all winners when we get to watch a sunset like this. That, as Jerry would say, it looks a little bit like it was painted by someone. It almost seems impossible that something could be that beautiful. Especially with the Balanites tree so conveniently placed and shaped. Oh, we've got a head up. My goodness, the excitement. Oh, and a yawn. Yep, and a big yawn. Of course, as you know, with our big cats, yawning like that, grooming their feet, yawning repeatedly again, is a sign that they are perhaps contemplating getting up. In this case, it seems as though a yawn was but a yawn. One of them is a very loud breather. Very loud. W. James, I see absolutely no reason why a Djuma lion wouldn't survive in the Mara. Oh, we've got another yawn. I wonder if perhaps a better question would be, would a group of Djuma lions survive in the Mara? Because, of course, a lion on its own, whether it's a male or females, is at a distinct disadvantage. They're social cats. They need companionship. Okay, a young male lion here in the Mara from Djuma would probably find itself a companion or 2 or 3. But you couldn't really translocate a female here and expect her to thrive on her own. But yes, I see no reason why a lion from Djuma, it would take them some time to adapt. But personally, I think they could adapt quite quickly. It's different hunting conditions, open plains rather than the slight, or the very thick in places, woodland of Djuma. I think they'd learn quickly though, and just change their hunting techniques just in the same way the lions here do when the grass is short versus when it's long. Here we go, little boy. With your scraggly little mane and the beginnings of a mohawk. It is the time of night when most of the big predators out here are waking from their day's slumber, which is great news for us, is not fantastic news for that poor zebra.
Yes, and shame. So for sensitive viewers, you can see now how bad this wound actually is. The zebra just tried to move and it fell down. Shame, poor zebra. Hasn't stopped it eating though. There's a very small chance that it might survive, so it's got to keep its strength up. But I would not bet on it. I think it's just been very, very lucky that a large predator hasn't discovered it yet. The jackals are still wandering around, not too far from it. See the jackals there, Arch? So that tree is in the setting sun, almost directly straight down from there, but close to us, and a little bit to the left. It's just moved a bit to the left, down a bit. There it is. And as I said, jackals have a serious set of patience pants. Waiting for the possibility of another large predator to find. And that poor, unfortunate zebra. I think we're going to gamble here a little bit longer to see what happens. So we spent quite a bit of time this week with the Olololo Pride, and finally we caught up with them after they had some success. Finally we find the 3 Olololo lionesses having made a successful kill early in the morning. Judging from their fat bellies, this wasn't their first kill of the night, but rather their last. Their behavior was playful and jovial as one female conducted the serious business of moving the carcass to a suitable area, while the others harassed her in a playful manner, but it didn't take too long for them to settle down and feed off the poor young wildebeest. There we go, there's that poor unfortunate zebra still there. No sign of the North Clan just yet, or of any lions. And a zebra in that state would even be fair game for a male leopard. And I have seen a big male leopard around here. Shame, poor little thing. Well, not so little, but poor thing. Brenda is wondering, would vultures find this zebra? Possibly not just yet. They are not really going to go for something. That zebra is still completely capable of defending itself against vultures, jackal, and the smaller predators. It would have to be one of the larger predators, hyena, leopard, or lion, and to take it down. And then once the carcass was on the ground, I'm sure the vultures would find it. But I don't think the vultures would hang around with an animal that's still that lively. I think that zebra, even with a group of hyenas, 1 or 2 hyenas, would still give a very good account of itself in defending itself. But I think the end would be inevitable. Oof, it suddenly just got quite a bit darker, but the skies are still absolutely gorgeous tonight. And the rain has stayed away. Yay! This time last night, Archie and I were battering down the hatches. We were getting absolutely pummeled by a massive storm. Shame, poor zebra. Okay, well, I'm going to wait it out a little bit longer, and while we do that, let's send you across to James, who's looking for leopards.
I am looking for a leopard. I'm also going to try and see if I can't find Scoobert. We'll go down into the dam itself because the pan next to the dam, where Scoobert and his parents have spent most of the day, is now occupied by Conrad the engineer, who is currently fixing something. I'm not sure what exactly. So while we go down here, the third leopard that we saw this week, earliest this week, was Tingana, and I was most pleased to hear that he seemed to have killed something on his own, and he had a very unusual visitor to the kill.
For the first time in a long while, Tingana seemed to have killed something himself, rather than pilfering from a harder-working predator. His victim was a Nyala cow, but the kill attracted a scavenger, an unusual one. It's been a hot week out here, and heat can cause tempers to fray more quickly than they might otherwise. The Duke, not known for his willingness to share, was scandalized by the cheeky slender mongoose, which he eventually put to flight. The little carnivore was the least of his worries, however. Hyenas pinched the rest of his meal during the night.
Right, hello everybody. We're back here now looking for Scoobert. Well, Sensor scans to see if we can see the little fellow. There is his parent. Let's just have a quick discussion on Tingana. We have not seen him since that kill, so I think he's probably been resting. He doesn't like to extend himself too much, but these days, of course, he is moving a little bit more than he has been for the past few months. So maybe, just maybe, he's off marking territory somewhere. Scoobert, have you been put to bed already? There he is. I've got him. He's running towards the parent. Hello, Scoob. He's such a cute little thing. Now he's hiding. There he comes. Put his head up. So we introduced you to Scoobert last week. The zoomies on the dam cam have been doing a sterling job of following his progress during the course of the last 7 days. And I meant to start today with him, and then I forgot in the excitement of going to see the Evoker boys. But I'm so pleased. We've got the second SafariLive's episode that features Scoobert, the blacksmith lapwing. Everybody's very pleased to see Scoobert, the blacksmith lapwing, running after his parent. Here comes the other parent now. He's so sweet. It would be extremely difficult for me, I must confess. Were a predator to come in here and try and have a go at Scoobert, it would be very difficult and extremely, possibly impossible for me to just sit here and watch him be devoured. I think I would have to, I would be unable to stop myself interfering. Scoob, don't go in there might be snakes. There you are. Turn around, come out. Follow your mum or your dad. Now, for those of you who haven't been watching, I have been reciting a few statistics about the success chances that young Scoobert has, and they are not good. Extensive research has been conducted on the blacksmith lapwing, and only some 26% of them fledge. Now, fledging takes 40 days. And by my reckoning, Scoobert is now round about 14 days old, I think. He might be slightly older than that, maybe 21. So he's got another 3 weeks or so to go before he's able to fly. And once he can fly, of course, his chances of survival are that much greater. But until then, he must rely on his exceptional camouflage, which I suppose will get less and less effective as he gets bigger and bigger. He's already much larger than he was last week. He's much faster than he was last week too. Oh, he's just too delightful. No, Funky Hamster, nobody could see that. To see Scoobert die would be just a deal too much, I feel. He's so sweet. It's such a... I suppose it's real jeopardy having a little guy like this and knowing that he's got to get to 40 days before he can fly. Oh, there we are, yes. It's a little bit cold. Now Mum's going to look after him. Just to warm him up. There are many hearts melting in the final control room, possibly not only there. Sense, would we get him in the floor or not? Is it too far? We're just going to try and see if we can catch him in the thermal camera. Seanak, a little thing like this would be preyed upon by raptors. So the Wahlberg's eagle would definitely have a go at him. The water monitor lizards that are around here, snakes that are around here, civets, genets, African wildcats, white-tailed mongoose. Anything wandering about here at night time that likes to eat meat would have a go at him. We can't find him in the fleur at the moment. Yes, well, I would quite like to be under the wing of that bird as well, because the wind is very cold indeed. We'll try and find Scooby with the thermal camera, and while we do that, let's go back across to the Masai Mara, where Jamie Patterson is with some sleeping leonies.
So while James attempts to find Scuba with the flare, we have our lions stretching and rolling over. Some new gentlemen who have only just had the chance to meet, who perhaps will cause chaos over the next few months. Who knows? We will just have to wait and see. As I said, these are new boys for me. I've never encountered them before, but I'm really glad that I had the opportunity to catch up with the Sausage Tree Pride one last time. Catching up with old friends is one of the simplest and most fulfilling pleasures that life has to offer. Seeing the Sausage Tree Pride again had a very similar feeling for me. But as often happens in busy lives, we had lots to catch up on. Their boys had moved on, choosing to stay with Kipuli in his conquest further south, and 2 of the females were missing from the remaining pride. Kinky Tail's wound, while certainly painful, was looking pink and clean, and will no doubt be healed in a few short weeks. Their new hangout has been filled with wildebeest and zebra since the migration arrived in the triangle. No doubt this is why they chose to be here. The females were full and content, and made no efforts to disguise their presence. A few zebra peered myopically in their direction, creeping closer and snorting as though to make absolutely certain that they were indeed lions. A sensible tactic. It's never the lion you see that gets you. However, in this case, the lions were content to indulge in a rare moment of peace. A peaceful moment for the Sausage Tree Pride, and I look forward to hearing about the tales of their adventures, particularly, of course, the tales of Kinky Tail's adventures. I couldn't resist. We're going to check one last time. I've left our lions. They're still very sleepy, so for the last few minutes of this episode, I thought maybe, just maybe, we'll get lucky. I'm crossing fingers, holding thumbs. Every bush looks like a hyena. That really looks like a hyena, but I think it's just a... No, it's Waffles. It's Waffles. Is it? It is. It's a whole load of hyenas. Who are you? It's not Waffles. Bristle-tailed. Hello. It's not Waffles, it's one of the cubs. I'm just going to do a quick spotlight. Is that Waffles over there?
Yeah.
It is. It's Waffles. I'm just going to take the light off her for a second. Let's go a little bit closer. Hello, girl. You timed that very well. Very, very well. She's sniffing around the den. Oh, well done, Waff. Big W. Oof, that smell. She doesn't look concerned. She doesn't look concerned at all. Oh, now we're racing. Wait for me, Waffles. You can't do this to me. You can't disappear now. She doesn't look concerned at all, which makes me think that whatever that smell is, it's nothing too serious. It's nothing to worry about. Oh, sorry, whoever you are. Don't mean to rush you, but we'd all like for me to say goodbye to Waffles, if you wouldn't mind moving your little bottom. No? Okay, that's alright. I'll just do this. Cut the corner instead. No, it's fine. If Waffles is behaving like this, the way she is, she's behaving very dominantly. They're racing for some reason, but there's no anxiety. Which comes as a massive relief to me because I was full of anxiety. I don't know what it is that smells like that at the den, but it's nothing too serious. Where are we going, Waffles? It's a problem with following hyenas. Sorry, whoever you are, I'm cutting you off for a second. I'm just going to switch around. I promise I won't be long. Where are we going, Waffles? With your tail up? That's how I'll always think of her. Oh, oh, social sniff, social sniff. That's one of my favorite things to watch. Waffles smells something interesting and whoever she's with goes, oh, I like that smell too. Look, see, we've got something in common. I like that smell a lot. So, as it turns out, the last few moments with Waffles are not going to be spent with her being a gentle mother, but as the leader of her clan, directing them in whichever way they should go. There you go. Someone else is coming to join the social sniff. It's your turn too. Oh yes, there we go, there's the smell. Are you interested? Come on, you've got to show Waffles that you like that smell. It's a bonding experience. James Richard, you say how magical for one last sighting. Absolutely. I was sitting looking at those lions as Kirsty was counting down our clip and thinking, I can't sit here and not see her one last time. I just had to take a chance. She probably came out in the middle of the day and fed those cubs. She knows what she's doing. Hey girl. Off we go. We're racing off. It's my way home anyway. I'm going to follow her one last time. Race for the clan one last time. For now, I mean. Obviously. Off we go. 4 hyenas in front of me, probably more coming behind me. Into the night. With my squeaky car. Squeak, 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 squeak. Oh yes, indeed. The hyenas are going to go towards that injured zebra, and unfortunately I believe they will be the ones to put it out of their misery. They're already racing in that direction. They're quite far, but that's where they're going. And once again, North Clan will capitalize and do the dirty work that the Maru River has started. Alright, I'm not going to get you one last view of Waffles, unfortunately, because somebody in front of me is taking its time trotting along the road, not quite keeping up with the matriarch. So that brings us to the end of this episode of Safari Lives. I hope you have enjoyed yourselves. I'm glad that you could join us. Thank you so much, as always. It's your questions and comments and sharing it with you that makes it all the more special.